Yarra, with one of the world's most unique environments and ecosystems, is it any wonder that Australia is full of strange and mythical creatures? Many are derived from Aboriginal culture, while others are more modern in origin. But whatever their source, they represent some of the strangest and most fascinating creatures in the world. So here's my pick of Australia's most fantastic and incredible mythical creatures. The Kinigir is an evil half-man, half-quoll, a carnivorous marsupial native to Australia related to the Tasmanian devil. According to ancient tradition, the Kinigir was a ruthless killer with the head and body of a quoll, but the limbs of a man. The Kini terrified the ancient people of this land as it wandered around killing innocent people, birds and animals. Many generations from hundreds of different Aboriginal people still recount the deaths of their family at the hands of the Kini, passed down over the generations in oral tradition. The creature was stated to have been killed by an owl and a crow who ambushed him when he came to drink at a billabong, causing him to shrink down and become the first quoll, the founding father of the quoll species. The Yarra Maya is the ancient Aboriginal version of the vampire and probably thought to be the inspiration of the modern-day legend. More than 40,000 years ago, the creature resembling a little frog-like man with red fur and a very big head was described in Dreamtime stories as having a large mouth with no teeth and suckers on the end of its hands and feet. It commonly lived in fig trees and hunted unsuspecting travellers resting under its tree, although it wasn't uncommon for the creature to lurk just outside camp. In its lifetime, the Yarra Maya is said to have fed off the blood of thousands of people, swallowing them whole, then regurgitating them and leaving them shorter than they were before. Victims were left with an unnatural reddish tint to their skin, whereas not so lucky victims are said to have transformed into the Yarra Maya themselves. The drop bear is a giant carnivorous koala. They are said to live in the tops of eucalyptus and gum trees and hunt by dropping from trees onto the heads of their victims, knocking them unconscious and then devouring them. The drop bear is equipped with sharp teeth and razor-like claws. It's said that they prefer to hunt at night and are not afraid of attacking creatures that are much larger than them. A popular theory is that the creature was invented by native Australians with the sole purpose of scaring outsiders away, but others have suggested that the story represents the danger that is the Australian outback. There are some utterly absurd methods of deterring them though, like spreading toothpaste or Vegemite behind your ears and neck, although the best method of protecting oneself from a drop bear attack is to hold a screwdriver above one's head. If a drop bear attacks, it will accidentally impale itself on the tool. The Tiddalick is a character in Aboriginal Dreamtime mythology. While not a creator being like the Dirrawong and the Rainbow Serpent, the Tiddalick still plays an important role in Aboriginal folklore. Although the tales of the Tiddalick are widespread, they're actually all derived from the Aboriginal people of South Gippsland in Victoria. The story is crucial to the Dreamtime and the understanding of how our world took its shape. The Tiddalick is a giant water-holding frog that once drank all the world's fresh water. When everything began to die of thirst, the other creatures devised a plan to make the Tiddalick laugh, thereby releasing all of the water in his mouth. It's said that many creatures tried to make the frog laugh, but all failed until Nanabum the eel danced and twisted himself into knots before him. Laughing, Tiddalick released the water, refilling the world's lakes, swamps and rivers. While this restored water to the world, it also had the adverse effect of causing a massive environmental disaster. The ensuing flood resulted in many people and creatures drowning and being stranded on different islands, hence our modern world today. The Waggle is a snake-like dreamtime creature responsible for the creation of the Swan and Canning rivers, as well as the other waterways around the present-day Perth and southwest of Western Australia. According to the local tribe of the area, the Noongar, it's delegated to protect the rivers, the lakes, the springs and the wildlife. The Noongar people were appointed as the guardians of the land by the Waggle after being seen by certain tribal elders who spoke to the Dreamtime being many years ago. The Waggle slithered over the land, shaping many sand dunes and scouring out the course of the rivers, where he occasionally stopped for a rest, creating the bays and lakes as a result. Piles of rocks are said to be the Waggle's droppings, and these sites are considered to be sacred by the Noongar and protected to this day by government bodies. As he moved, his scales scraped off and became the forest and woodlands of the region. According to the Noongar, the Waggle still resides deep beneath the springs of this land and is believed to represent the survival of an extinct ancient megafauna python, the Wanambi. The Yowie is a hominid cryptid in the same tradition of the North American Bigfoot and the Himalayan Yeti. The first known recorded account of the Yowie appears as early as 1876, but they have apparently been a part of Aboriginal folklore for more than 40,000 years. They can stand up to 7 feet tall with bodies covered in black or brown fur. Although they're bipedal creatures, they've been reported as running on all fours. They're most commonly reported in New South Wales and the Gold Coast of Queensland, and in the bush country of the Moahawu Range in New Zealand, although there have been reports of sightings in the North Auckland and West Coast areas as well. They've been sighted as recently as 1997, when a woman living in the Tanimi Desert was woken at 3 AM by a 7-foot-tall creature covered in hair. The police discovered gigantic footprints and a shredded irrigation pipe on the scene. There are various theories concerning the truth about the Yowie. One of the most popular was put forward by self-proclaimed archaeocryptozoologist Rex Gilroy. Gilroy argues that the Yowie may be remnants of an extinct ape species or even a less evolved version of Homo sapien. There have been many more sightings of what many believe to be the Yowie in the present day, causing victims to live in fear due to their unusual encounters with the unknown beasts. The Yowie remains an important part of Aboriginal folklore, as native Australians regard them as the original inhabitants of this country. Over the thousands of years, out of fear, the Aboriginal people fought many battles with the Yowie, but they always outran even the fastest Aboriginal runner. The bunyip has been long feared by the first inhabitants of Australia. It is said to devour humans, sneaking up on unsuspecting victims in silence. Descriptions of the creature vary. It was often described as having a huge body, sometimes covered in fur, sometimes in feathers. Instead of legs, it had flippers. In a drawing of the bunyip by a Murray River Aboriginal in 1848, the creature was depicted as having a body resembling that of a hippopotamus and a horse-like head. A depiction by a Victorian Aboriginal, however, showed it having the neck and head of an emu. There seemed to be as many different descriptions of the bunyip as there were sightings, but all of them were truly terrifying. Of course, conspiracy followed. In 1847, the Australian Museum in Sydney displayed what was claimed to be the skull of a bunyip. The supposed skull was on display for just 2 days, before being quietly removed. An article appearing in the Sydney Morning Herald about the skull prompted many witnesses to speak of their own encounters with the elusive creature. But before long, the Bunya had become a subject of fascination with the Australian public. The following descriptions were given. It was a huge animal of extraordinary appearance. It had a round head, an elongated neck, with a body and tail resembling an ox. Another stated it was a sort of half-horse, half-alligator haunting the wide, reedy swamps and lagoons of the interior. But probably the most terrifying and detailed encounter was that published from an eyewitness to Windsor and Richmond Gazette in January of 1927. A visitor called the rectory and asked to be directed to the town of Kangaloon. While complying with his request, he was warned not to attempt to cross the swamp, which looked very easygoing from the rectory garden, a bare 4 miles by that route. Going by the road meant a 9-mile journey. Whether he attempted to cross is not known, but he was never seen again. So a group of men who lived in the surrounding area of New South Wales went out in search of the missing man. They returned terrified and said that they came upon a creature basking in the sun on the side of a hole supposed to be bottomless, situated in the centre of the swamp. At their approach, the creature, which was described as the size of a 2-year-old steer, possessing 2 short, broad fins, and was a dirty white or light grey in complexion, took fright and plunged into the hole. So what exactly is this chameleon-like cryptid? Descriptions vary wildly, and it's interesting to note that not even indigenous accounts of the creature share much in common. Perhaps the creature is more cultural memory than flesh and blood animal. Maybe stories of long extinct megafauna have been passed down over thousands of years through the oral traditions, and it's these stories that spawned the rash of sightings by European settlers throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries. Or perhaps there are any number of fearsome flippid creatures hiding in the swamps, billabongs, creeks, and rivers of the outback. Hey guys, and thank you so much for watching. So that was my pick of Australia's most fantastic and incredible mythical creatures. What I really love about these stories are the fact that they've been passed down from generation to generation by Indigenous Australians for like the last 40,000 years. That's a long time. Like, if you compare that to ancient Egyptians, which, if they remained as is today, would be 5,200 years old as a culture, Indigenous Australians would still have 35,000 years on them. That's what makes Australia a very unique country, and to me, I feel very fortunate to have learned Indigenous culture and Dreamtime stories. So tell me what you thought in the comments below, and smash that like button if you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one.